I had some skills, but I didn't have anything in my coursework to showcase, nor did I have any sort of significant project in this space. I was like, this is a good chance. Basically, a nano degree which spans for 3 months. If you complete it in like a month, you get it for free. I was trying to search for something in some library, and I remember I went to a Russian website and I had to translate it to English just to learn what the people have put it in the. Initially, the goal for me was to just compile content for him and give him content, generate slides for him. But I ended up taking 2 classes out of 10 classes which they taught during this. It's just crazy for me.
Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to our podcast show named Beyond Conversations, a podcast show which is for the students and by the students. In today's episode, I have Kedar with me. Hi, Kedar, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah. Hi, Soham. And hi, everyone. I'm Kedar Kshatriya. I'm currently pursuing my master's from Columbia University. My major is management science and engineering. Previously, I have done my bachelor's from DY Patil, which is affiliated with Pune University. It was in computer engineering. After my bachelor's, I worked on my entrepreneur journey, and yeah.
I wanted to do this episode for a very long time because your profile touches upon various aspects like building a career in technology, then your entrepreneurial journey, then your higher education and everything. So we'll break down the episode into 2 to 3 parts so that it's convenient for the audience to catch up with the relevant portion that they can more relate to. So then, first of all, talking about your undergrad experience and then your career in technology, like especially you started with blockchain. The first question that I had over there is like, why blockchain?
I can go a brief over my undergrad journey, how I sort of ended up taking computer engineering. Basically, I was curious in the technology sector, and I thought when I'm pursuing something for my bachelor's, computer engineering would give me a broader perspective of what things I can look into. As I was like thinking about software applications, even before my engineering, I was like just trying out different things. During my time, we used to put custom OS in mobiles and everything. So I was just curious to try those things. So that is something which like basically started a bit of curiosity in me. But to be honest, when I was pursuing my first year of undergrad, I was not at all doing anything aside from my coursework. And now that I think of it, I think like I should have done the various things even from the first year. So my basically everything which I started doing was, if I remember it correctly, it was from my second year. There was some workshop related to Python, which was gonna take place by some person affiliated with Microsoft or something like that. It was like a 3-day workshop, basic Python, IoT, and these kind of things. And I was like, let's just try it. And then I sort of went to the workshop. This is where like I got an understanding of why I should like focus more on project, but still I didn't take it much seriously, to be honest with you. The thing started getting serious when it was almost the mid of my second year. And this is where I started like looking through LinkedIn and just exploring LinkedIn. And that's where I started looking that, hey, people are doing some projects and some different work aside from the coursework which they have. And this is where actually I got an opportunity. So there was this professor from one of the universities, colleges affiliated with Mumbai University, and they had this unique program where like for almost 1 to 1.5 months, different students from across India, they basically apply to their program. And if they get selected, these will sort of help us work on different projects during the summertime. And that too international projects at various universities based out of UK, like Europe, and in general from USA as well. So this is something interesting, and I just felt like this is something, if I do it, then maybe it take my journey to a next level. And sort of I just pursued that thing. I got in, like there was like a whole interview process which they took and everything. So I got in, and then I had to pay a bit for my travel costs because they covered our living expenses and everything. Like, you have to pay for the travel cost. I was like, okay, fine. So I sort of compensated for that. And during this time, right, it was a 1.5 month of constant exploring. Like I went to Athens, Greece, at a institute called Athens Information Technology. And this is where actually I first heard about blockchain. And this whole 1.5 months, it was a constant exploring and various intercultural exposure to me. I was in a new city, I was in a new country in itself, with like different bunch of people around me, all like very brilliant minds around me, all exploring different things, different projects. I was working for a professor there, basically, and we were just exploring the blockchain domain in general. So during like 1.5 months, we sort of built like a whole project which was in the supply chain sector. It was like a prototype that we built using blockchain, and we sort of divided it in different like two parts. So for the first half, we worked on something, and the second half, we worked on the completion of the project. But once I was back from there, right, I got to thinking that, hey, that there's something different is there. During this 1.5 month, I explored a lot, learned a lot. So I don't know, it sort didn't match with me, the things that we were having in the syllabus, and we were not having much practical oriented in the syllabus. So I was like, I have to do something about this. So I remember correctly when I was back in my third year, right, I went to Greece at second year. So when I was back in my third year, I was like, I had this curiosity in me that was driving me crazy, that I have to work on projects. I have to work something in the blockchain space because that technology was fascinating to me. All over the people around the world who had worked before for the World Wide Web, or even before the inception of internet, they were all in blockchain. I started reading articles about it, reading different things, watching YouTube videos, just trying to get as much content in me as possible in a brief amount of time. Because I was like, this is something which is basically a technology that can shape the future. There was still like, and there is still like a lot of, I don't want to get into it, but uncertainty about it. But when I look it from this perspective right now, after I'm almost been 3 years, I see why it is there, but I see like a lot of people working on various projects and interesting projects. Even like big top Fortune 500 companies are working on various projects in this sector. So I am extremely happy that I sort of deep dived in blockchain at the starting of my third year.
Yeah. At that time, I think we were in like 12th standard, first year, somewhere down the line. And then I remember like AI and blockchain are the two things that were talked about. Like if there's a future that you want to build in technology, these are the two domains that you should get into. And AI and blockchain was the most fascinating one. And then you chose blockchain. I think this is a very different approach to approaching a domain that I've seen, because a lot of people, what they do is, first of all, they start with full stack development or something like that. They pick something that is very popular, and then they start their coding or programming journey from there. And then they get into subsequent technologies like machine learning and all of that. But then I think your research experience at that institute shaped you towards blockchain, right? Then how did you start diving deep into that even more? Like you said, like you went on the periphery, like you explored blogs and YouTube videos and all of that. But then apart from that, I think you progressed as a blockchain developer and subsequently as a freelancer and stuff. So how did that journey progress ahead?
Sure. So thanks for fighting it out so we can take it in the direction. So basically, when I talk about research, right, I worked on some research during my in Athens, Greece, but it was not like a significant research work which I did there. The thing which happened is, after like I came back, I started looking out for internships, and I sort of started doing internships during my undergrad. I did almost like, I think so, I did 2 internship or 1 internship or something like that, and it was like pure Python based internship. What you're saying, like full stack development, these kind of things. I did that to get a lay of land of how things are. Afterwards, I started applying for secondary internships. I wanted to do something before the start of my 4th year, something in the research work or something in the blockchain domain. And I was not like, at that time, blockchain was not picking up in India, to be honest with you. Right now, it has a bigger audience, but at that time, it was still talked by very few people. Very few folks were talking about it. And me being a student, I didn't know how I entered in the circle. So I started looking up for different opportunities, and this is where I found out about IST. So IST is like a organization, and it has centers in few universities in India. Very few centers, I think. So it has only 3 or 4 centers in India, and basically they help out Indian students find summer research work or summer internships in various international universities. So I remember I contacted Manipal University for it. I had no affiliation with Manipal or anything. I just randomly contacted that, hey, I'm a student. I'm doing so. I'm interested in this program that you offer. I didn't even know if they offer it to students which are not from their college, because it is pretty famous in Manipal University for their students to do some sort of research work or internship work during various summers from either first year or second year at various different international locations. And this is something I just like randomly reached out to them. I started my application process for that. They had like a tedious application process. I had to work on my resume. First time I sort of worked on my resume, to be honest with you, because
Uh-huh.
during undergrad, no one even talked about us about like how a good resume should be. Nowadays, there are a lot of content out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For COVID,
Blogs
like,
and YouTube videos. Yeah.
yeah, there are a lot of content, but before that, there was not much about it, or at least I was not that much interested about it to look into it. So this
Uh-huh.
is where I started. First time wrote my SOP. I wrote my resume. I wrote a cover letter for that application. Like I had to compile all the different things which I've worked till then, put them in a place. I had to work on some certifications just because to showcase my profile strong. I was not affiliated with that university. I was like an external student there. So I was like, okay, this is fine. And then basically, I got an opportunity with a university based in Istanbul initially for a ML internship. But due to COVID, everything got cancelled and that got cancelled. Then I was sort of sad, like what I should do. Okay. But even before that, so what happened is during my end of third year, one actually a bank approached in a college for summer internships, and I sort of like did the whole interview process and everything for that. And we were only, I remember, like we were only 5 students who were selected for that internship. It was nothing in the blockchain space or anything. It was like a general basic internship, software internship, moreover like that. And I remember I had that as a backup option. I was like, if not this, I have something else in my mind. Actually, I didn't want it to do, but I was like, it is something than nothing, right? And then COVID happened and everything went online. And I was like, okay, fine. Even my internship, the other one, that also went online. And then I got canceled from the summer internship, which I was planning to do abroad. Yeah. And then I was like, okay. So what I did was during that time, I sort of utilized that time in this sense. There were a lot of course content available on Coursera. Coursera was giving out free courses and these kind of things. So I just took a deep dive. I was like, I'm gonna come learn as much as I can during these 3 months, 3 or 4 months, something like that, before the summer. And I remember I was sort of coding, working on the different these certification courses have different assignments and these kind of things, right? So I remember I sort of put a small setup in my one of the bedrooms in my house, and I was working there. Like I used to wake up in the morning, I used to sit, learn, work, and I actually worked it almost like 7 or 8 hours a day. I was just doing that during COVID. And I remember it distinctly from March to I think so July or something. I was just doing that. I was doing that, exploring Python, JavaScript, blockchain. So I remember doing like it is sort of paid. It's today is also paid. But sort of at the time they were giving out a promotion that if you sort of complete it in a 30-day span, basically a nano degree which spans for 3 months. If you complete it in like a month,
Okay.
you get it for I think this
Okay.
is my chance to get like a valid certification in blockchain space because
Uh-huh.
I had some skills, but I didn't have anything in my coursework to showcase if I had to apply for an internship or something like that. Nor did I have any sort of significant project in the space or internship, previous internship or something like that. So I was like, this is a good chance. So I remember for those 30 days, I like basically all the material I had for like 3 months, I concised into 30 days and I just worked on it along with working on Python certification and these kind of things. And even before this internship, which I had with the bank, I had already completed like a bunch of certifications. It is something from which I learned a lot. It sort of helped me set up a foundation for blockchain knowledge basically. And I remember that the course content at that time was still lacking what was there in the market. Okay. I would come back to the point later on, but this is something which I noticed at that time. After that, I sort of started my internship with the bank and I worked there for almost 2 months. And during that time, I got offer back from the IS, the same university.
They start. Yeah, yeah. They start.
University.
Okay.
Here we have a blockchain project to work on. One of our
Interesting.
PhD candidates is looking out for undergrad interns and wants help from them to work on a new sort of research work on his existing PhD thesis, which he has already done. He was working full time at that time. He's still working full time. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. So after I completed that internship, I remember.
Yeah.
So I completed that internship, and within 3 days, I started the second internship.
That's nice. That's
Yeah.
I think
And-
COVID gave a lot of time for people to explore their careers and domains and everything and position themselves in a better way. Like I can see
Yes.
from your example as well.
Yes, yes. But then again, you can take it in two ways. Okay, people who wanted to explore, they got a lot of.
Exactly.
People
Yeah.
who wanted to explore, they just use
Yeah.
that.
Did nothing. Yeah.
Which I am completely fine with. I'm just saying, like, in general.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
this is what happens in general as well during like various times in undergrad. I remember like during like what I said initially, during my first year, if I had some information that I could explore a lot of things, I could have explored a lot of things during my first year itself. Now, if I talk more about my research work, I sort of started my research work, and to be honest, it was difficult. When I started it, I was going crazy. So the research work was completely based on Java. I had done like a very basic foundational class during my second year in Java, and this required advanced Java knowledge, various Java framework knowledge like Maven, and different kinds of framework knowledge. And then basically, I remember I had to work on a library which was already sort of, not a lot of people were working on it. It was like a Web3 library based in Java. So I can talk what a Web3 library is here before going ahead. So basically, Web3 library is a bunch of or a set of tools compiled together which you can use to do various core level blockchain technology integration in an application or something like that. It is mostly there based in JavaScript or Go or these different prominent languages, but not initially people used to work on Java for it as well, very initially. But by the time I started like my research was like 2020, yeah, it was mid of 2020 or almost end of 2020. At that time, when not a lot of people were working on Java because they thought it's not that scalable on Java. But the project which I was working on, it was interesting. So it was like a core blockchain protocol level work, and I had to sort of work on it on my own. So like I was the only intern working on that. I had the professor, and my guide was the PhD student. Like basically, had already completed his. He was working full time. So they were both my mentors. So I remember each week, at the end of the week, we used to have like a half an hour call where catch up call. I was to discuss with them that, hey, I'm facing struggle here. And to be honest, for the first 2 weeks, I was facing a lot of struggle because setting up Java framework, everything, it was a bit of struggle for me. But after the initial rough start, right, once I started getting a hang of it, I remember the project, I had to work on it for 3 months, but we ended up extending it to almost 4.5 months or 5 months or something like that, just because we realized that it needs a lot of development work in it, and I had to make a lot of developmental changes on the core fundamental code they had in itself. And I had to integrate the existing libraries which were made by bunch of developers and one library,
Yeah.
so, which is not even maintained. I had to integrate into this. So this sort of gave me a very unique experience in general in the research domain, that how cutting edge a research can be. And I remember, okay, so I was trying to search for something in some library, and I remember I went to a Russian website and I had to translate it in English just to learn what the people have put it in. Because there was no content on it in English or any other popular website for it. So I remember that. So this is some of the instances which sort of make me feel that research work is something which is cutting edge. But then again, a lot of general companies or people just looking out for generalized work, they don't sort of require a research background. This is something which I did complete out of curiosity. And this is where I can suggest something for people who are interested in research, do pursue it. Because even if it doesn't sort of help you directly with your job search or job hunt, if you are into that, but it sort of helps you set up a mindset. This research mindset helped me set up a foundation when I was working on my own product. Because working on your product requires a lot of things. It requires research, knowledge, a lot of things. So this basic background which I had in this sort of helped me do that.
That's amazing. Yeah, one thing that stands out for me throughout your journey is that like you basically explored almost everything on your own, because like you mentioned, like blockchain was pretty rare in India. Like people were still exploring things and stuff. And even on the internet, like you mentioned, you went to the Russian blog and stuff. Like how did you navigate through this journey? Because it is very fascinating. Like particularly my undergrad journey was like I was like specifically looking for mentors, like for my personal growth and stuff, but then without any significant support from our mentors, and plus you didn't have any coursework, right? So was it just your curiosity that was driving you ahead, or was it the kick that you got from the research work and getting into the zone and doing, like you mentioned, all day you were working on the domain? So what was that exactly?
So maybe I can talk a bit about here. sort of when I got this curiosity and passion, which I talked about, right, at the start of my third year, I got to know if I have to do something different, right, I have to take a non-traditional path. And I knew this when I started, it is going to be difficult. But then I was taking a lot of inspiration from different peers, basically, even though they are not from the same college or same university with me. But I was sort of reaching out to people over LinkedIn. I was randomly messaging. I was just curiously searching for opportunities here. And sort of when people used to put different things on LinkedIn that, hey, I worked on this or something like that, I was like, okay, if someone is working on something in this space, then there are resources out there. I just need to go and reach out. Like I did, like I reached out to ISA, I got to work on a research project. So uh, I feel like if someone is curious about something, they could just try it out, reach out to people. Nowadays, it is more like open. Even like Pune University now has like a blockchain course and a small book based out of blockchain on it. So there are a lot of things which are going in that domain. But if some say there now Gen AI is going on, like it's going like crazy. And if someone's actually interested about it, just start reaching out to people. People are out there, they help you a lot. A lot of people have helped me throughout my journey till now, to be honest with you. Even like my master's journey, even like my research journey, like whatever, like brief research. I don't call it like an extensive research journey. It was like a very brief research journey which I did. Even my internship journey. So I remember distinctly, after I completed this research work, right, I still wanted to do internship. I don't know why. I was just crazy about it. And I basically loved the practical exposure that I was getting.
Yeah.
Which I sort of felt like my coursework was not giving me that much. So I loved that practical exposure, and I was hooked onto it. I was like, I want to have more of that.
Yeah.
I remember I applied to another internship for a startup based in I don't know, Switzerland or something like that. Belgium or Switzerland, something like that. It's not shut down, but they were worked for almost like 1.5 months or 1.5 years or something. They were trying to build like a education platform or something like that. And I remember meeting a person there. He is like pure technical. He's very brilliant, and he was the CTO there, and he was just curious about blockchain. And I reached out to him in that, hey, I want to work something in the blockchain space, and he sort of offered me an internship. He was like, okay, you want to work on something? I want someone to help me figure this out, and let's just work together. And I remember, so during this internship period, during the whole COVID period, I ended up doing 3 internships in general. And sort of, I don't know how I don't know how I was able to manage that time right now, if I think about it, but it gave me a lot of learning in a very small amount of time. So yeah, and then these people, right, like I said, like I reached out to a person, and these people are sort of, I think of them which are ahead in say 3-4 years in my journey, whichever I am taking. They are ahead of me 3-4 years or more than that. They sort of give me an understanding of how they paved their path into it, and from which I can just relate it. I can't like follow their path. No one has the same path, right? I can't follow someone's path. I can just relate to it that, hey, if someone was in this situation like me, what would they have thought of it? And I sort of try to make out options out of it. It still happens today as well, even though I'm doing my master's now. This is something which I'm still doing on. I'm reaching out to people, trying to do different things. I'm trying to explore, because this is the age for us, right? Like the early 20s, this is the age for us to explore a lot of things, rather than just being like done with like, hey, I have to do this, and then I'm done. This is your time to explore. And for me, I don't have a traditional tech background. Like both of my parents are doctors, so I have no tech background, to be honest with you. Being basically I'm the oldest sibling at my house, so sort of I don't have someone older than me to guide me through things. There are cousins and all around me, but still it a lot when we try to explore things. So this is where I sort of made people around me sort of try to get help from them, reach out to them, and this is something which worked for me. It's still working for me. So if someone, like I'm just saying to people in the audience, if someone is sort of interested that they want to pursue something but they don't know like where to go ahead from, just reach out to people. And if you can't reach out to someone, just reach out to me. I can help you reach out to me.
That's nice. That's nice. Here, I would want to make 3 to 4 statements. So the first thing that I could have figure out from this entire journey of yours is that you chose the path of curiosity. And this is the book that has had immense influence on me. This is the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. And one of the things that I learned from this book, like he mentions that laying a foundation for your career by chasing your genuine intellectual curiosity is a much better path than to chase something that is minting money right now. So that's something that I've been implementing for a very long time. And I got my, my journey's validation through your journey that, I've been doing something right, chasing my curiosity. Secondly, you talked about networking and how has it had a significant impact on you and how has it shaped your way. By mentioning that there was someone 3 to 4 years ahead in your journey, by looking at them, you figured out like what is it that you want to do. To the podcast, which is something that I've been doing for the last 2 years, I've been connecting with people like this, trying to figure out their MS applications journey, their product management journey, and all of that. And through because I'm working on my MS applications right now, and when I trace back at how did I come to this, like why this particular university and this course, all I realize is that it's just through the mentors that I've talked to via this podcast, like initially as a guest, and then they later on became my mentors. So yes, reaching out to people and then, going through this entire process of self-introspection through their journey and then understanding if it is something that you want to do or not want to do is a thing. And the question that I had is that while you were doing all of this, like internship, research, and all of those things, were you consciously looking forward to something like, this will help me in my job search, or this will help me with my freelance or research internships in the future, or it will help me with my MS? Or were you just living in the present and exploring the domain and just having fun with it?
Sure. So I have not talked about my MS yet. When I started my bachelor's, I had in my mind that I have to do a master's. This is something which I already had in my mind. But during my bachelor's, I sort of lost track of it, that I wanted to do MS. And in regards to job as well, right? To be honest with you, I have never looked into building my profile for job or something like that. I have just pursued what I was curious about. I don't know if it's a good way to think about things, but this is something which I have done. I'm not saying that people following, like looking out just to follow, for like building profile for job is a wrong thing to do. This is something that has worked out for me. It might not work out for someone, or it might work for someone. But while I was working on these things, right, somewhere in back of my head, I had that if I have to apply for good universities for MS, I wanted to do, like, I had this in mind. If I'm doing my master's, I'm going to do it for the best institute.
Best goals. Yeah, absolutely.
So sometimes I just used to go through the profile of different people. This I did extensively just before the year, like a year before. But even before that, when I was like just in my undergrad, I used to just look for profiles of people, look into what they are doing. So I saw like few people doing research projects. I was like, okay, good. I saw a few people doing projects, or a few people doing internships, these kind of. I was like, okay, good. How I can reciprocate that, and how I can put something like that in my profile, which is some sort of subconscious thought in my head. And I guess this is something which just helped me build my profile in general. It was not something like an end goal for me, but it was something just on the back of my head that, hey, if I have to do something significant, I have to start building something different, like start exploring options. And I guess talking more about after what I did, like during my final year, right? So my final year as well, I remember. So this just wrap up my whole engineering thing. Okay. So during my final year, I remember like after doing like a bunch of internship, everything, my final year was still online. So we had our exams and everything online. So I still had a lot of time to work. So this is why I worked on my final year project, which again I did like a bit of switch. So at that time, like there were a lot of things going in COVID. Like there was a lot of medical supply chain issues going in COVID and something like that. So I just took that topic, I related it back to the project which I worked in Greece, which was in supply chain, but it was not related to medical supply chain or something like that. So I sort of worked on a small project to work for my final year research paper, which we all have to do during our undergrad. And I worked on the blockchain, supply chain, medical supply chain in blockchain project. And I remember my project was the only one on blockchain. Everyone was curious about AI, which is a good thing. But this is something which I found, and it's sort of sometimes I used to think that, hey, am I doing it like correctly? Like, because right, a lot of people are following some other path, and I'm like, today also sometimes this thought just comes in my head, but I'm like, no, and this is something which I'm curious about, and something I'm passionate about. So
Yeah.
it just keeps me pushing.
That's
So
really nice.
After I completed my bachelor's, right, I had already got a job offer. So I sort of didn't have to apply for jobs or something. Like the research internship which I did with the, sorry, not the research internship, the internship which I did with the bank, just for the 2 months, I had already gotten a job offer for that.
That's okay.
It was a decent job offer per se, looking at the market at that time. But then I sort of didn't pursue it. I just said to them that, hey, this is not aligning with what I wanted to do. Because till then, I have gotten like a passion in me that, or a thought in me that, hey, there's something in the blockchain space which I have to do. I don't know what it is.
That's nice.
But I want to pursue in that. I don't want to switch fields or work in something which is non-blockchain or
Yeah,
non-web.
doesn't align with you.
Yeah, it's not aligning with me. Even if I work there, it is good.
Yeah.
I will learn new things. It's not that I'm not gonna learn things. It's gonna be good for my profile, but it's not something which I want to do. So I graduated. I didn't take the job which I had in mind, which I had the offer for. I just graduated, and during that time, people had already started reaching out to me that, hey, we needed. One thing I didn't talk about is during my undergrad, right? Like brief period when I was not doing internship or anything, I with a bunch of my friends, we were working on hackathons. So hackathons is something which has also helped me build my profile out. Because during internship, you work on either research projects, which you do research paper on, or you work on internal project for a company, which you cannot like sort of put out that, hey, I worked on this. You can talk about it. You cannot like completely put out the code or completely put out what you worked on. Okay. This is where a hackathon helped me sort of fill the gap in between this. Okay. If someone wanted to look out my code base or how I work or what I think on from scratch or working on an MVP or something like that, I feel like if someone wants to showcase their work, hackathon is a good way to do. There are like few hackathon platforms which are out there. They are like big now. One of them is Eat Global. Another is DevFolio. These were like two big hackathon platforms on which I used to like work on hackathons. I worked on almost 3-4 hackathons during my undergrad, out of which I won like 2-3. Even I participated in the Smart India hackathon during my final
Yeah,
year.
SIH. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It was also a learning journey for me. Like we worked on a project. Our project was selected in the top 5 projects at the end,
That's nice.
but sort of it also went online after that, and we didn't end up doing it. But it was like a learning
Good
experience for me. Yeah.
Mhm.
So these I would encourage like students sort of look into hackathons. It is the best way for you to learn things and practice on the code base or practice.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's nice. So this part sums up your undergrad journey in general. So is there any like advice or anything more that you would want to talk about your undergrad experience? Any learnings or mental models, tools that students can use in general?
Just be curious. That's
That's
just what I want to say. Just be curious. Explore things. We will feel that, hey, this is something I know that it's not a first thought in everyone's head that this is something which can change their life or this is something which they want to pursue. But if you're just curious about it, right? Just talk
Right.
it with friends. Find a bunch of friends who are as curious as you to build things around you and just
Yeah.
work on 1 or 2 projects. I would tell you working on a project gives you a lot of exposure rather than just reading about it or researching on it. Working on project gives you a lot of exposure. When you sort of try to build thing and it breaks and then you have to fix it again, it gives you a lot of.
And then at the end, when it works out, works out perfectly, like the vision that you had for this and everything, it is very satisfying. And then when you look back, you sort of think as if you planned out things to, this will align, that will align. But then when you were there back then, things weren't like looking as linear as they are right now, is what I think again.
Yes.
Very, very satisfying and very fulfilling experience. Something that I learned a lot from, and I think the audience would learn a lot from. And again, validated my journey so far because right now I'm in the middle of my MI applications, undergoing thorough introspection on everything that I did in the last 3 years. And this has been a fun conversation so far. So talking about your your journey after you graduated, right? I think you started your entrepreneurial journey right after your graduation. So that is a point that I would want to touch upon now.
Sure. So that's why I covered hackathon beforehand. Okay. So when I started building for hackathons, right, I used to post that, hey, I won this hackathon, I worked on this or something. So I remember people reaching out to me over LinkedIn. I had like a fairly decent LinkedIn profile. It was not a great or something. But there were very few folks who had like a blockchain in their headline or their head tag. And then like people started reaching me out that, hey, we want to work on something in the blockchain space. We want someone to build this MVP for us, or we want someone to work as a freelancer for us. And I was like, okay, I'm not actively reaching out to people. I'm not working on Upwork or Freelancer. To be honest, I still don't have profile on those platforms. Okay. Uh, it was just people reaching out to me over LinkedIn, looking at my profile, whatever I built, these kind of things, the research, internship experience, which I had till now like built a lot of it during grad. And people started reaching me out. I started talking to people. And I remember finding 2 clients at that time who were like, "We're gonna pay you, just help us build this thing, and let's see where this goes." I'm like, okay. And this is where I was like, okay, now let's take a time. Okay. So as I told you, I wanted to work on my MS application. Like I was curious about masters, but once I sort of once I was in my final year, I thought let's take a year in between after my final year, and then I'm gonna start working on application. I'm gonna take a year just to explore the industry, just to explore where I can take my path in, because I had already rejected the offer which I had gotten. And I was like, now I need to start thinking how I can make money in general, or just start looking how I can monetize my skills in general. I'm being completely blunt about it. This was my thought in the head. And once people started reaching me out, right, I was like, okay, some freelancing is something which I can do. And those were all international clients. So no one was based in India. So they were already sort of paying me in a currency which was stronger than India. The currency. So I was like, okay, this is a nice opportunity. So I remember for 5 months or something like that, I did a bunch of freelancing. I worked with 2 clients on their different freelance projects. I helped them build their MVP. Then I sort of helped there was a platform who were trying to have boot camps and these kind of things. So I took a boot camp in the NFT blockchain space, and I sort of did like content creation in small format there. And then I remember I was a TA for Michigan State University's summer program. They had like a summer blockchain program, and as I was like already like always exploring different platforms and different things, I was just on a forum, and one of the professors there had put out that I am looking for a TA for one of my summer classes. I was like, okay. I just randomly reached out to him that, hey, I just graduated from my final year and I'm open. I'm freelancing right now. I can work as a freelance TA for you. And he was like, okay, fine. He took an interview for me and he was like, okay, fine. Let's start. So I remember initially the goal for me was to just compile content for him and give him content, generate slides for him. But I ended up taking 2 classes out of 10 classes which they taught during this.
Okay, that's nice.
It was crazy for me because I never sort of anticipated teaching a bunch of international kids about blockchain. And this is something which sort of helped me get a validation, what you talked about, right? Validation.
Yeah.
Helped me get a validation that something which I'm doing is working out. It's at least working out for me. That's why international universities or professors from international universities are are okay with what I'm doing.
Yeah. And plus the monetary incentives that you were getting also sort of puts a huge validation that, okay, whatever I'm doing, it has some monetary returns in the market, because I think till now you were working on research, right? So then, like, did you have the doubt in your mind, like, I'm working on research papers and I'm getting into that field, but then is it going to add monetary value to me?
Yes. This is something which I had in mind. I did a bunch of internships which they were not like highly paid internship or something like that. So this is something which I had in mind that hey, I'm in a lucrative field here. Let's try to monetize it rather than just being in a traditional. Because being in a traditional job, you have like a fixed salary or something like that. But being a freelancer is a complete different ball game. Like you have to manage the expenses. You have to make sure that you have enough clients working on, so you have capital build, recurring something. And this is something which I sort of explored more a year later. So this is whatever I topped, right? It was till the end of 2021 and start of 2022. And like just graduation. Yeah, just 6 months after my graduation. And after that, I sort of went more into freelancing. When by the start of 2022, I was firm on this that this freelancing model is working for me, but I cannot scale it. For me to scale, I need to have a bunch of people working with me on this, like a sort of corporate, not a corporate structure, but like a structure, legal structure around me, where I sort of, this is where I started looking for setting up a company or setting up a software consultancy firm in general.
Yeah. As an
So,
agency kind of a thing.
yeah, in general, I was like, let's have a legal structure. So, A, I can get clients. B, I can have a bunch of people helping me build this projects for clients. And C, it was just like better than doing everything on my own. So, I sort of like co-founded like this software consultancy startup, and after we just started, we got our first client. We helped him build his prototype. He had just launched his marketplace, I guess, a few months back. We helped him sort of develop his smart contract. These are like blockchain terms, like smart contract, solidity thing, and sort of for his like MVP and his production level code. And this was like a recurring project which we were working on. Then we started looking out for different clients. During this time, I was still working on hackathons. I didn't leave it because there were a lot. It was lucrative, okay, to work on hackathons. It's still lucrative to work on these international hackathons. This is very lucrative because they don't pay you in INR, they pay you in USD. For someone like me who has just graduated, getting something in USD, it's much better, and it gives me a bigger spending power to again
Yeah.
put that money back in my firm.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
Sort of like a side hustle in general. Even though I was working full time, like on my own, building my own thing. And during one of this hackathon, I and my co-founder, we stuck with the idea. Like we worked on a small idea during a weekend. We put it for the hackathon. We won like one of the prizes for the hackathon. But then we thought this is something which we can scale. So rather than just focusing this particular idea on a single project and just leaving it and then working on something new, this is something which we can scale. But we didn't know how we can get capital to build it because it was very technically heavy project. It was something which we needed like a bunch of people with us, like at least a 10 people team or more than that, to help us build it. So this is somewhere we sort of were stuck because we were like, we don't know how to approach VCs. We are very, very early stage. And how do we get some money to build these things? We were broke, to be honest with you. Even though we were having some monetization, like part of things from the clients which we were already helping build hackathons, but it was not like a stable income which we were having. So this is where we started up looking out. So in this blockchain space, right, there are a bunch of foundations and companies which give out equity free money, because a lot of projects in blockchain are open source, and these foundations want different projects to be built. They want young people like us to explore different options. They want us to sort of build larger level applications, enterprise level applications, and they know that there is some angel funding which is needed, and this is where grants come into picture. So we started looking out for grants. From the hackathon, we won. The sponsors of the hackathon also sort of tried to connect us with different foundations. We sort of started looking out for grants for the idea which we had. We pitched our idea to them. We applied for the grant and we got it approved in a month. And this was just after 1.5 months of we starting our company. So we already had a legal structure to hire people, and now we had capital.
Yeah.
Well, we had like a very basic minimum capital with which we can at least build something for the next 8 to 9 months.
That's
And this is what I thought, like, was it put us in a very good position here to explore the idea we had, build something which we wanted to, and gain experience and get paid for it. So it was like the best things.
Are everything aligning together.
Yeah.
You mentioned about like two of us, like your co-founder working with you on the hackathon. Like how did you get your co-founder? Was it like you looked into the complementary skill sets and everything, or was it someone you knew already who was working in this space and then you got together?
He was sort of a long-term friend from my undergrad. We were both curious about blockchain, basically technology. We both were madly curious about technology. And when we started working on hackathons, we found out that we have like a complementary or complementary skills in general to build at least projects and develop things. So where we thought, like, why not keep this in a legal structure? take a deep dive into it. So I remember I and my co-founder, we sort of moved together. We like rented an apartment, which was sort of our office, and we sort of started working on the product which we had gotten the client. So we worked on the project last year from March till almost like this Feb or something like that, for like 7 9 months or more than that. We worked on the product. We hired a bunch of people. This is something which gave me a lot of exposure, to be honest. I was working individually for now. Working on projects, I was working on projects which were very small scale. Okay, this was like a very large scale project which I was working on, and this was like a completely different ball game which I was not at all ready for. Which is a recurring thing if you notice till now. Like I dive into something which I'm not ready for, but eventually I end up doing something in that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess this is how the whole learning journey
Yeah.
happens for everyone. So I just started, like, this was my first time taking out interviews for people, trying to hire, like, we initially hired bunch of interns, then we hired like bunch of freelancers, then full-time freelancers basically we hired for building our product. And during this time I explored a lot of things. I worked on design, I worked on project mapping, I worked on
So wholesome.
how to sort of build a product from scratch. This was
Yeah.
just an idea in our head, right? For
Yeah.
this idea to get validated, built, it took a lot of time, it took a lot of effort. And during this time, as like my 1 year which I had given to me was almost getting over, like, which I had given to me. So I had to start working for my applications, master's applications.
Yeah.
As well.
So, would it be safe to say that this was your gap year after your graduation and before your MS applications? Like 1 year of one gap year
Yes.
in between.
2022, you can say.
Yeah.
And because I started
Yeah.
my master's in fall of 23. So
Yeah.
2020, from the end of 2022, so mid of 2021 to mid of 2022 was like a gap year I took.
Gap
In
year.
this,
Yeah.
I once explored a lot of things, lot
Yeah.
of. I ended up founding a company, started working
Yeah.
on my product, for which I got grant, which I never thought. Like, if you ask me that when I just graduated and I rejected my job offer, if you ask me that, hey, in a year what you would be doing, I would be like, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is something we built by the end of almost last year. I was simultaneously like helping build the product and
Mhm.
working on my master's application as well. So
Right.
it was a tedious,
Yeah.
but I had to like effectively try to manage time between both of these.
This is very fascinating to me because you shifted from your researcher's mindset to a freelance guy who was, handling clients, and then you shifted to your entrepreneurial journey, which is again it's a very different ball game. Like, did you read any business books or anything during, like, while you were hiring and while you were going through all of this, or was it everything that, living in the present sort of a thing? Like, let's go about it and let's figure out how it works.
So I read a bunch of blogs whenever I was curious about things that if I want to look out for candidates. I just started looking out. I looked into content which was online there on YouTube. Because by this time, a lot of content was already online, to be honest. Like today, there is a lot of content.
Post-pandemic, Post-pandemic, everyone,
Yeah, so there was a lot of content. So if I was stuck somewhere or something like that, I either used to reach out to people. Like, hey, I'm building something like this. I don't know what I want to do next or something like that. Can you guide me? And people used to guide me that, hey, this is something which you're building like is good. You can try these things out. You can try these things out. And this is something which helped me. But during this time when I was like working with few bunch of people, I noticed this thing, like when you are trying to build something, right? If you have a clear vision in your mind, then only that product will be built. If you don't have a clear vision, right, you won't get that product in mind. Because the people who are sort of helping you build this, they are just focusing on particular task at mind. But when you are the founder or the co-founder, you have to look from a long perspective. From very
you need to have a 360-degree view of things, and then plus something like in terms of time also. Like, this is what I see, like 1 year down the line, 2 year down the line.
Yes. So so it was sort of a exponential learning journey for me. Like last year, while I was building my product, it was like next level exposure which I got to the industry. I reached out to people. I started visiting conferences just so I can get in touch with different people. I get in touch with different companies, try to look out for client product, and it is something now is a recurring thing, which I'm doing in New York, which I can talk about a bit later. But this sort of background helped me where I'm right now. And this sort of helped me set out my profile in a different way. So, like, if you remember, initially I talked, right? I had somewhere in my subconscious mind that I want to build a profile. But by the time I started my master's application, I had built like already a significant profile. I had a substantial amount of work which I could showcase for my master's application. And this is where I thought now I can start applying for one of the topmost or best universities out there. Because when I started looking at people who were already sort of doing their masters there, I could relate to their profile. That's something similar I have done. Not exactly similar, but something similar.
Something similar. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there is some scope.
Yeah, it's a probability game.
It's a probability game. You never know. Because to be honest, right? Like now I look at my class and the people here, everyone is brilliant. But
Yeah.
the way in which basically they have selected the class size, it's completely holistic. Some people have very good GPAs. Some people have very good GRE scores. Some have good project work, research project work. Some have an interesting profile, or some have industry experience. So
Yeah.
they sort of look, these are Ivy League institutions, right? Or top colleges in US in general actually look out for a holistic view of your whole profile. And even though this was not my end goal, like sort of not everything I was doing was not just for my master's journey.
A master's, yeah.
It was just my curiosity driving me exploring things. But this sort of helped me create a whole holistic profile in 360 view, which now I reflect on it. Because to be honest, when I talk about my master's application, right? If we move to that segment now, when I talk about it, basically I got into 2 Ivy Leagues without GRE score. I got into top colleges without GRE score. I gave GRE, I didn't get a good score. But all the admits which I've gotten, right, good admits, I've gotten without GRE score. Okay. So it was just purely based on my profile wherever I've gotten good admits.
Yes. So that's amazing.
Yeah, this is something which I found interesting because a bunch of people in my class, like they have good profile, but they have very good GRE scores.
Good GRE scores, yeah.
So this is somewhere I feel if someone is confused, right? I don't have a good profile. I don't have time to work for a good profile. I would suggest like give GRE. And this would sort of help you compensate for that. But if someone is just like 3-4 years, you have 3-4 years or something like that, I would suggest rather than just focusing on GRE, focus on your profile. Because GRE is something just would help you get into the university. But when you are in a big university, like an Ivy League institution, if you have something or have worked on something, you would know now how to navigate. You would know what resources to tap into because these universities have a lot of resources.
A lot of resources, yeah.
And when you have worked on something and you have something in your mind, hey, this is something I've worked on and now I want to pursue this. This is where if you have built a good profile would help you out in the long run. GRE would just help you get into that.
Yeah, it's a small component, yeah.
It's a very small component. But if you have a big profile or a substantial amount of work under your belt, this will just help you build a holistic profile. Yeah.
Right.